So if you don't know how long your inventory is sitting on the shelf, then you don't know how much cash is trapped, in your warehouse. So most HVAC companies think they have a profit problem when they might actually have a working capital problem. And here I'm going to show you this one KPI, and it's going to expose exactly where your money's stuck. And so we're going to calculate this based off the data set here, and then I'm going to show you how to create a heat map that anything above or below this number is going to highlight red. And then 86 days, what that's saying, it's dividing 30 days by 35% or by 40%. And it tells you anything in red means that it's in inventory longer than 75 days. So let's get started. We have a data tab here. And if you want this, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. And really, the only columns we need is the month, so we can do everything by the month end date, which is what this is. And then we're going to need the category, and then we're going to need the beginning inventory value and the ending value, as well as, issues, meaning, sold, and then the value of those, the costs. And then we calculate these 3 columns. So the first thing we want to calculate is going to be the average inventory. And I'll just redo these formulas, but the average inventory is pretty straightforward. It's just the average of beginning and end. And you can see these numbers, they match. Let's try that again. These numbers match here. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to find out the cost of goods sold for sold, inventory. And so that's going to equal the issued units times the unit cost. And again, you can see these here equal this here. And then finally, the inventory ratio, the turnover, is just the division of those two. It's this divided by this. So equals this divided by this. And then you get a percentage. Okay, so now we can actually create the insights. And so I'm going to delete this because we don't need it. We already have it. And then from here, what we're going to do is we need a list of the dates. I'm going to center everything here. So to get a unique list, we need a unique list of the month end date, which is here. And so equals unique, and then here. So don't do here. You see how the letter A turns green? Don't do that. Do it here on the table level. So we have a table, the table inventory turnover, and month, and then the end date. And then we have that here. Just need to make it look like a date. And so you can see it's also, in sequential order. And so we know, because we're using a table, we know the table name. And then we need to get the unique list now of the category, right, of these categories here. And the way you do that is with, again, the unique function. But now we know the table, and so we can just add that to the formula. We don't have to keep going back and forth. And so parts category. So equals unique table inventory turnover part category. And then we have that here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make this alphabetical. So we're going to sort this, A to Z. So equals sort. And then finally, we want it to be across the top. Like, we don't want to have to drag everything over. So the way you do that is with the transpose function. So transpose, sort, unique, and then you have it here. I'm going to copy and then press Control-Shift-V to remove the formula. Okay, so to calculate this inventory turnover ratio, we essentially need to know what is our average inventory, and then the numerator is going to be what was the cost of the inventory sold that month. And we have those columns already done, so we have it right here. We need to take the sum of this for the month and for the part, and then divided by the sum of this for the month and the part. I just showed you how to do this, but we're not really going to use this column. We're not going to take an average of this. You don't take an average of the averages. Actually, so much so that I'm not even going to use this because I don't want you to be confused. And so equals, we need to sum the total cost of goods sold that were sold for blower parts and January. So the first argument with SUMIFS is going to be the table, and we don't have to type it out every time. If you just type in, if you type in T, maybe you'll see the table. But if you type in TBL, then you'll see it there. And then now we want, down here, it's going to be issues COGS, right? Issues is just, warehouse terminology for what was, sold. So some of that, if, and then now we can just go a little bit faster. So we know it's going to be the parts category is this, comma, and then it's actually the first one here, the month end date, comma, is this. So 71,000 for January 31st is what was sold. Now we need to divide this by the average inventory. So what we can do, because this here is the same, right? All we have to change is the issued COG to the average inventory. So we can divide it by the same formula and then just change this section here. And this is why tables are so useful. So here we want average inventory value, and then Control-Shift-5 to make it a number. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. So the next thing we want to do is we want to drag this, down and then over. But the things are not, the formulas aren't locked, meaning this is blower parts here, but down here it's not. And so we need to tell Excel, like, as we go down, we want to lock the row of blower parts, capacitors, all that stuff. But we want the month to go down. But as we drag it over, we don't want the month to change. Like you can see here, this is on, you can sort of see the red right here, right? But then here, you can see the red moved over. So we need to use the dollar signs. And so anywhere you see the month, which it's red here, but it's not always going to be red. So, but wherever you see the month, just put a dollar sign before the column, which is before the letter, like that. And then anywhere you see the row, put the dollar sign before the row, which is the number, right? You don't say row B, you say row 2. You don't say column 2, you say column B. And that's good. And then finally, you still can't drag it over. And the reason is because the tables, you can see here, issue COGS now becomes month end, which we don't want, but you can copy and paste. And then now you have sort of everything that you need. So a couple more things we're going to do is we're going to do an overall by month, which is here, and then an overall by part, which is here. So the benefit is all we have to do is just copy this formula and paste it here. You're going to get an error, but we're going to fix it. So you're getting an error because it's trying to find the month that has the name overall, which is, we don't want that. But we're going to be deleting that anyways, right? Because we want it by the part category, so we don't want anything related to the month. So anywhere you see the month like this, just remove it. And so we can just delete this here. And we have that, Control-Shift-5, and then copy, and then paste. And then for here, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. You're going to get an error because it's looking for the word overall in the parts category, which isn't there. But it doesn't matter because we're deleting it. So anywhere you see parts category now, just delete that section here. And then now you can't actually click that down. And then one last thing is this cell here. This is just the overall, days inventory. So this is actually going to be the sum of the table. We want issue COGS, close that, divided by the sum, the table, and then average inventory value. And this is your sort of your magic number for everything. But having everything, it doesn't tell you sort of a full story, right? You need to break it down by part, by month, even by supply. Well, you could do it by supplier, but that wouldn't really make sense. You could do it by service tech if you have that data, to see what kind of jobs they're doing. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we want a percentage here, and then we want anything less than this to highlight, red. So I'm going to highlight everything, press Control, and then highlight the bottom row, go to Home, Conditional Formatting, highlight cells less than, and then click that number. And of course, now you can change it. Okay, and then now, because you might be working with your team, you might want it to say target. or something benchmark, threshold, whatever it is, whatever word you want to use, and they're not going to know that that's, that they should change this cell. But the problem is if you type in the word target, it's going to break everything because now it's being stored as text, right? Like equals this plus 1. You're going to get an error. But if you do this, you can see now it's working. But go into the percentage and press Control 1, the top, the 35%, and then go to custom, because you need the format cell dialog box, custom, quotations, and then again, whatever word you want, space, and then quotations. And now you can see equals this plus 1, and it's working. And then what I'm going to do now is, so these are monthly numbers, right? So I want to divide this. I'm just going to pick 30. But if you divide this, so equals 30 days divided by this tells you anything highlighted in red is in inventory longer than 85 days, right? Because this is monthly turnover. So in other words, you have 100 parts and you get rid of 32 of them, for February for compressors. But what does that mean? Like how long, say you didn't buy any new parts, how long would it take you to get rid of everything? And that answer, I guess, is 32%, which is, would that be almost 90? Yeah, 94. And so that's what this means. And then also Control 1 again, just so again your team would understand what this is saying. We could do this, or you can do 1 decimal, or to 1 decimal, and then days in inventory. Something along those lines. So now as you change this, anything that's red is greater than this 85.7. Actually, let's remove the 0. It doesn't look good. Right. And so yeah, anyways, that's all I got for this one. If you have any questions on this stuff, shoot me an email. questions@databoards.io. If you want this file, there's a link to download it. And also, if you need some help recreating this, you can shoot me an email, or there's a link to hop on my calendar. But yeah, or if you need some help getting insights into your data, any of that good stuff, just let me know on that one. But if not, then that's all I have for this video, and I will see you in future lessons.